Good morning, folks. Hope everyone is doing great, having a good time indoors and staying healthy and getting good sleep and all that stuff that you need to do to be good. Okay, so here's can't tell from the photo. It's a story about Anita Sarkeesian because, we need more irrelevant people in the news to have a good time and laugh about. I think that's always a good pick me up. Get some crazy people and talk about their insane ideas and just sit back and have a laugh. I think that's why God has given us life, just to laugh at other life for thinking differently. And if you're not religious, that's fine too. Just laugh in general, because if you have a rational mind, this is going to go well with you too. Anita Sarkeesian asks, why hasn't America released everyone in prisons? Okay. Gee, where to begin with that one? But I could have sworn Anita was really big on throwing even the most remote male who looked at a woman funny in prison. So maybe she wants to renege on that opinion. Maybe she wants to free all the men. I don't know. One of those things. I think most of the people in prison are men these days, so I don't think she'd like that. But, never saw men she didn't dislike, right? So Anita Sarkeesian, a self-labeled feminist media critic, which is the dumbest self-label I've ever heard, and there's some really dumb ones out there, recently took to Twitter to question, why hasn't America released everyone in prisons? This is one of a series of questions. This is just, one of the weirder ones. Sarkeesian is probably known for bashing media properties and celebrities that do not align with her own personal worldview, which is essentially the thoughts of a child who hasn't learned the world and just says, oh, that is a bad person. Why are you bad? And pick a reason, pick a person. It's just random, roll the dice. That's the mentality of Anita Sarkeesian. She hasn't grown up. She has avoided what it means to be responsible and understanding of the adult world, apparently. And not just the adult world, everything surrounding adults, like buying and selling to stay alive or talking to people, for example. Back in November, she bashed Jon Favreau and the popular Star Wars series The Mandalorian, because of course she would. It's popular. She gets attention that way. She claims the show perpetuates patriarchy. Now, this is a fun little term. If you don't know what patriarchy is, I don't know if Google's going to help me out here. A system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced to the male line. So basically, you're talking about a bunch of men who sire men, and they're in charge of their groups. And that's neither a good nor bad thing. That's just, you could have a matriarchy, you could have, I don't know, both. That's just, you're just describing what is. Most mass media overwhelmingly centers men and perpetuates patriarchy. And we're like, so what? Even if that was the case, what's your argument? The Mandalorian is no exception. It wastes no time in establishing a patriarchal setting. Okay, again, so what? The bartender is a man. So again, we're going back to our definition. A system of society or government. Not a business. Not a bar. The bartender is a man. So a fictional story, is showing us a bar where the bartender is a man. I'm not, again, how is that patriarchy? The bar patrons are men. You're like, okay, so you have a place has a male serving people. Those people happen to be men. And then outside that business is a cab driver who is a man. This is not a patriarchy. What about, I don't know, a female-centered place like a salon or a spa? The spa owner is a woman. The patrons are women. The people who drove them here were women. That's a matriarchy. And we were like, well, technically, no, it's not. But even if it were, how is that good or bad? That's just what women do. They go to spas. They go to salons. They get their hair done. They get their nails done, etc., etc. I'm not seeing any problems with that setup, but I'm not even seeing the patriarchy. That's not what the patriarchy is. It's a system of society or a government, not a business. What is this person talking? I think she's stretching the word patriarchy to mean anything with men, because she hates men. She never saw a penis she didn't dislike. And she's going to call it patriarchy because male bad. The first female we meet is the ship. And you're like, so what? What's wrong with telling a story about guys? What's wrong with having a business about guys? What's wrong with having a story about women? What's wrong with having a business about women? You see, all you do is you flip the genders or you flip the sexes and you go, what's the problem? How is this good or bad? You have to have some understanding of, I guess, feminism to see where she's coming from, because I don't get it. You can't just say patriarchy and assume this is good or bad, because there's no criteria. It's like men are here, yeah, women are there, yeah, and maybe they want to be there. What's wrong with that? I think most men and women who have friends, they associate with other men and women because they're more comfortable that way. Would you feel comfortable walking into a bar with all kinds of women if you're a guy? Some guys might not. They'd be like, whoa, look at all these girls. This is strange. I've never been into a bar like this before. Maybe I'm in the wrong bar. Of course, it depends how attractive these women are and how drunk you might be before you even get into the door. But that's why there are bars. And would later target series creator Jon Favreau. I guess Jon Favreau was like, well, if we just make all the vehicles female, like the ship and the blurg, then we're good, right? That's just the right amount of female. Not seeing a problem. Plenty of AI or non-human females or female-sounding voices on ships in science fiction stories. Guess what, Anita? Women have nice voices. They sound gentle. It's a nice sounding thing. They're higher pitched. Might be nice to the general audience. Oh yeah, that's a female voice. Cool. That's why we have Siri. I would imagine it's a nice voice to respond to, as opposed to a big gruff guy going, "Hey, what do you want? Let me search that for you." That might be cool too, but Favreau and the Mandalorians are not the only people she's gone after. She went after Tyler Ninja Blevins back in September 2018. Now, why would she do that? Because of his personal decision not to stream with women other than his wife. So this guy makes a decision saying, hey, I'm just going to stream with my wife, my family. Don't want to stream with anyone else or any other women. I'm not seeing a problem. To him, maybe that's a personal thing. He has every right to stream with whomever he wants. Nothing wrong with that. Anita doesn't like that. You're excluding women? That's bad. Even though the women you do not exclude happen to be your wife, it's a personal choice. Nope, you're a bad person. If he just didn't say that, I bet she wouldn't have anything to say. Because Anita Sarkeesian would then attack Blevins, calling him a misogynist when ESPN chose to feature him on the ESPN magazine cover. So the man is married and streams with his wife, and only his wife. And somehow he hates women. It's a very strange logic there. Wait. Isn't this the guy who said that he won't play with women? Cool, way to go. ESPN elevating the status of a misogynist. Again, Anita's just throwing names around because she's insane. Her worldview is that of a child. And she has some words she learned from mommy and daddy, who are crazy people, and thought, oh, this is a bad thing. And she never bothered to look at the rest of humanity or the adult world and go, oh, people do things because they like it. And there's no hidden, bunch of men secretly causing the suffering of women. There's no conspiracy against women here, darling. This is called life, and it's been going on for a long, long time. Very, very strange philosophy, this third wave feminism. She's also taken issue with Marvel Studios. Ant-Man and the Wasp, a pretty minor movie. I actually saw this, believe it or not, in 3D. and I can barely remember it. Claiming the entire plot is about saving a damsel in distress. You know what? As plot-centric as I am on this channel or in general, I can't remember the plot. I think there was some teleporting ghost character who was a villain, and there was all kinds of tiny little cars, and I think there was a scene in the water. That's about all I remember. So I didn't think it was horrible. It wasn't a bad movie. It was just not very memorable. I would like to tell you what I thought of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh boy, please do, Anita. But the people sitting next to me were talking the whole time. I hate the... What? So she's not arguing about the movie. She's arguing about the people sitting next to her talking? I hate the ingrained entitlement that the influx of tech and money has brought to this city. And of course, she's in San Francisco, I believe. So she's arguing that the people sitting next to her were talking too much, and she's blaming money and technology. What the hell are you talking? Were they talking on their cell phones? Were they texting each other and giggling? What are you talking? Were they tech giants taking one of those 10 o'clock matinees in the morning where they just feel like watching a movie and skipping on work? Like, what are you talking about, Anita? You're hating people who are talking, and you're blaming the tech industry and the money that has brought it. Like, what insane series of events came to this conclusion? I don't know. It took me a few days to realize this, but Ant-Man and the Wasp, maybe she went to go see the movie again. We don't know. Is a movie about a damsel in distress. The entire main plot is about saving a damsel in distress. And you're like, so what's wrong with that? It's a popular common trope in fairy tales, in Disney movies. What's wrong with saving a woman? That sounds like a good thing. It sounds like there are women in need, Anita, and it takes a good, strong man to help them. Isn't that what you've declared the planet to be, just a big damsel in distress? Don't you want that story? Don't you want a happy ending? Don't you want to save women? I think I'd like to save, if I see an attractive female actress or whatever on screen, whether it's a fantasy or sci-fi or what have you, I'd want to see her saved. Why don't you? I thought you like women, Anita. What's your problem? Wow. As you can see, she has a lot of pretty stupid arguments. Even the the poster is like, yeah, this woman's out to lunch. And ignorantly attacks people without cause. Yeah, that's probably why she's not very popular these days. See, John McIntosh or McIntosh is crazier, but at least he produces content that people are attracted to, like videos. Whereas Anita has zero skills. And she can't do anything that is even remotely attractive. So here we have her latest one. This is all, of course, because of our conditions with lockdown, being in self-quarantine, which is on a whole level of insanity. Where does she come to these questions? Let's find out. Why hasn't America frozen rents and mortgages? I don't know, because maybe the government, the federal government, is not in control of the rental industry and real estate and controlling the banks because they shouldn't be. Bailouts are a horrible thing. Sometimes you have to stop the bleeding with minor corrections. This is an economic argument, but to say, hey, free rent indefinitely is not a solution. It's not why you have government. So, you have government for a certain reason. They should never overstep their bounds. You have constitutions and bills of rights and all these other things, and first world countries that have rules to prevent government from doing too much. So just, you could see that from an economic view, a political view, practical view, et cetera, et cetera. This would be crazy. You don't just bail out the world. That's insane. Why hasn't America nationalized its health services? Again, Why would this happen? Why would you suddenly just stop on a dime and just change everything? This would take time and all sorts of politicking, all sorts of focus groups, all sorts of things to get this going. It's been tried before by all sorts of other politicians over the years in America. It takes a huge effort. And you would not just stop on a dime and change everything just because it doesn't make any sense. Just because if you nationalize healthcare doesn't mean people would get better. How? And if it did, you'd have to prove that. You'd have to be really good because America has these, as far as I know, the best privatized healthcare in the world, if not one of the best. So you'd have to say, hey, let's take all this away or explain what's going to happen to that to then nationalize or federalize healthcare. It's a whole other argument, series of arguments, really. And she's just going, why is this happening? Because you're a child, Anita, and the world does not stop on a dime and make your dreams come true. That's not how the world works. Why hasn't America released everyone in prisons? Okay, now this is the title post. Now, I could have sworn years ago, maybe even decades ago, Anita was asking for throwing men in prison with no trial for looking or thinking about women or some insane concepts like that. So let's say that was true. So now she wouldn't mind having all these men released from prison and every other criminal of every denomination, of every reason. So you could say the first two questions she's made are pretty out there. The third one is just insane. You want to release everyone from prisons. Why would you do that? Because we're in self-quarantine, which I think prison is a quarantine, as far as I could tell. Why that would be counterintuitive to having a quarantine. You want more people roaming the streets? The exact opposite of what the quarantine is about, having curfews, etc. Wow, like what logic is she operating? I don't know. I want to know this logic because I don't think ideology is the problem anymore. I think logic is just non-existent. Why hasn't America issued a shelter in place for the whole nation? So I don't know what a shelter in place means, because if you're going to release people from prisons, then what? You would have to have some sort of massive curfew on the country. But where would they go? What would a shelter? Is everything a shelter? Are public places shelters? Well, that's the opposite, again, of a quarantine. You want people to stay away from each other. So how does that work? Like, I don't understand these series of questions. I think she just had a bucket list. Like she was like wishing for Santa to deliver her stuff in the time of crisis. And you're like, I want this. I want why. It's like, how are these related? Now's a good time to read up on alternatives to capitalism. How did we get from this to that? You know what? I think we should just round up all the crazy people and say, hey, you want not capitalism. Here's 100 square miles of whatever you want to do. Here are your boundaries. Here's some seeds to plant grain and corn and rice or whatever you want. Here's some fresh water. Here's some building materials. Build it, whatever buildings you want. And go there. Make your utopia. You can be the pilgrims of a new world. And the rest of us who have read history are going to be like, okay, do what you like. We'll see you in maybe a year, maybe a month. See how well you do. Because I'm quite sure without capitalism, we wouldn't have the smartphone. We wouldn't have Twitter. We wouldn't have Silicon Valley. We wouldn't have computers. We wouldn't have all these wonderful things that have changed and enriched our lives today. Or we wouldn't see them for hundreds of years. What a bizarre... This all goes down to how crazy the left is. Now, I have people who have left-leaning ideologies. They're cool. We talk. We rationalize things. It's great. They have brains. This is a child. Anita Sarkeesian is a child who hasn't learned what the adult world is, or what rationale is, or what ethics are. They're hell-bent on breaking things down for the sake of breaking them and not having the ability to rebuild things. It would be one thing if she was an engineer and a political scientist and a economist and all these other things. And then she could argue with the foundation saying, well, if I take away this, I can replace it with that. And that's how that would work. And it would work better. Then you would have something to argue about. We'd have something to sink our teeth into. Anita has nothing. She is vapid. She's empty of ideas. And all she wants to do is destroy. For I don't know. She doesn't like men. That's the only thing I could think of. And capitalism bad, because again, if you're a feminist, pretty darn good big correlation if you're also a socialist. So Sarkeesian was the main target here. Now we have Fran Drescher. I agree. Capitalism has become another word for ruling class elite. When profit is at the expense of all things of true value, we got a problem. I'm not seeing what's wrong with profit. It's not the most perfect philosophy to have. I don't think capitalism is perfect. I don't think anyone's ever saying that. But it's the best we've got. It's kind of like democracy. It's certainly one of the worst forms of political discourse and systems, as Plato and many others from thousands of years ago have argued. But when you actually test it out, it's the best we've got. And I'm not saying we shouldn't stop testing, but that's what we've got. The same with capitalism. It's the best we've got. It's certainly not the best. It lends itself to corporatism and other horrible things. But again, it's the best we've got. We live our lives this way. If these people want a different system, I really think we should give it to them. We should, here is your 100 square miles of whatever. Let's see what you can do. I would love to have experiments like that, but these people can't live that way. They don't know how. No one really does. But again, crazy things that happen during times of crisis. Capitalism bad because people own stuff and other people don't own stuff. It's very strange. And of course, Mark Ruffalo. Can't go too far on Twitter without Mark Ruffalo, or I can't remember the charmed actor who has things to say about Trump every day. Don't care. It's time for an economic revolution. Capitalism today is failing us, killing us, and robbing from our children's future. Now, I don't know where that's coming from. The only thing that's robbing the children's future is the federal government's spending and their ability to rack up amazing deficits or debt. That is actually robbing or mortgaging your possibly children's future, because they have a massive amount of money to spend off to fix the debt problem. And America is not slowing down. Most countries are not slowing down in their debt, and that is a huge issue. So, and the only way to ease that debt is to have massive profits, and you're not going to get that from not capitalism. Let's just say that there's no other wealth machine aside from capitalism in the world that we have seen. So, no, Mark Ruffalo, you do not understand economics, even on a basic level, even though he's a millionaire himself, and probably doesn't have too many needs or wants to ease his lifestyle or to make his lifestyle better, because he's already at a high level. But yeah, let's bash the hand that feeds you, Mark, of course. So yeah, just more crazy people showing their stripes in times of need, which is all the more reason to laugh and have a good time. And keep working, guys. Keep making stuff, making good art, good stories, good media. Whether you're not in media, whatever you do remotely, keep it going. Try your best. Take a break now and again, and take it easy, guys. Have yourself a great day.